So Xie is known as a very candid, tough negotiator in international climate talks. At the Durban talks in 2011, a video of Xie repeatedly banging a table over what he believed were hypocritical demands by developed countries was widely broadcast in China. And yet his counterparts continued to speak to a sense of humor and his general likability.
所以在这个谈判场子，他只有对手，有朋友，没有敌人。所以你能够坚定地维护本国的利益，但是在这个过程当中又能够维护人类的多边的这个利益，找到一个最佳结合点，这就是一个谈判代表他应该具备的品质。
Beyond the negotiating table, Xie has a personal commitment to fight for change after traveling to parts of the world affected by the climate crisis.
我从事气候变化工作以后，到南极、到北极。到一些小岛屿国家，到一些不发达国家，到他们最基层，到农村去看了看，确实看到了这个气候环境对这些国家的经济社会发展。你看到了这些问题、这些危害、这些影响，也看到这些工作能够给这些地方的老百姓带来的这个生活质量的改善。花钱并不多，只要你选准了这个技术跟选准了方向，其实就可以，既应对了气候变化，又改善了生活，又摆脱了贫困，又能够发展当地的经济。
In 2017, Xie received a $2.5 million award for his efforts to tackle climate change. He donated the money to his alma mater, Tsinghua University, hoping to encourage the next generation of climate leaders. He's now the head of the university's Institute of Climate Change and Sustainable Development, and his team's research has helped set China's goal to become carbon neutral by 2060.
So One Climate Institute that works with Xie's Institute at Tsinghua has laid out a plan of increasing renewable and nuclear energy and completely phasing out coal power. Under this particular plan, coal-fired electricity would be eliminated by 2050, and China's energy mix would undergo a dramatic transformation. We've also seen these estimates that something like $15 trillion will need to be invested over the next 30 years to meet these targets.
不能用传统的这些生产方式、生活方式、消费模式、传统的技术，要想实现这个目标是很困难的，甚至是不可能的。我们必须要创新，必须要转型，而且要加速转型，这个大力的创新，只有这样呢，才能真正实现。
That's it for this week, but keep the conversation going. Follow us on Twitter @Climate. From London, I'm Anne-Marie Hordern, and this is Bloomberg Green. Street's biggest players for the better part of 3 decades, Gary Cohn spent years as president and COO of Goldman Sachs, nearly getting the top job. Then in 2017, he made a big career change, joining the Trump administration as director of the National Economic Council. He spearheaded tax reform efforts and stuck with the president before resigning after 14 months, following a battle over tariffs with other factions of the Trump team. Was his time in the White House worth it? Where is he spending his time and money now? The answer is in part technology. Joining me on this edition of Bloomberg Studio 1.0, former head of the National Economic Council, Gary Cohn. I'd like to start with your big picture, mid-pandemic view. We're in a very different place than when you left the White House a couple of years ago. How would you characterize the state of the U.S. economy right now?
So one thing is we have to remember how resilient the United States economy is. If we all think of what we've been through since March of this year and where we are now in December, I think it's nothing short of extraordinary to how resilient we've been, how well the consumer has held up, and how well the economy has held up. In spite of the fact that we've gone through almost every negative iteration we could go through. From completely shutting down the economy at one point, which we now understand all of the ills, both for the economy as well as the emotional and psychological well-being of the country, having all these little micro events in different parts of the country go on one by one. In spite of all of that, the U.S. economy continues to recover. It continues to find ways to find a path forward.
Since you left government, you have explored new territory. You have a SPAC, of course. You are on some tech startup boards. Tech has cushioned the blow of the pandemic and also accelerated huge changes in human behavior. What COVID-borne technologies do you think are here to stay?
So, Emily, we've learned a lot in the last 8 months, and we'll continue to learn. And I think that COVID has accelerated a lot of the technologies that were coming natural. If it's payment or fintech today, we didn't invent fintech 8 months ago, but we're using more and more of the payment apps, and we all want to be touchless or hands-free. We don't want to be touching pens or writing or signing pieces of paper. So we're using touchless payment systems. I think the biggest question coming out of COVID for me is going to be this data and freedom of data issue, because we've seen a lot of the problems. Think about the whole issue when we went through the CARES Act. One of the big cornerstones of the CARES Act is that we sent money out to individuals, well-deserving individuals in the United States. It took the federal government using all of their powers months to find people and to actually be able to disseminate cash to them, cash that they wanted and cash that the government was trying to get to them. We have technology solutions that would solve that. I'm just not sure people are willing to give up the freedom to have technology solve that problem. We just went through an election. Think of the maybe controversy or maybe not controversy around the election. And all the discussion around standing in line to vote, and all the discomfort that created. We have the technology to create real biometrically enhanced voting, where you literally can vote anywhere biometrically, whether it's voting from your iPhone or going to a polling place and using your biometrics to vote. We would have 100% accuracy on knowing who voted, when they voted, where they voted from, not who they voted from. But there are a lot of technology solutions that we could be using, and maybe we should be using, but we're going to run into this natural antibody